So now is the time where we're going to go into our meditation, and today I want to do something a little different. Because we know that prayers and meditations, we don't have to have words when we say our prayers or when we go into our meditations. Sometimes it's just our thoughts and our feelings. Sometimes that's really all we need. So today, I want to hold a time in silence for the people that are in Afghanistan, sending them love and peace, and for the people that are in the path of the storm. Again, just surrounding them with love and holding them just in peace and just sending the strength to them that they need to get through these moments. So if we could just gently close our eyes and just begin to just breathe normally, just naturally. Just allowing those feelings of peace to just begin to wash over you. Not the peace that we seek somewhere outside of ourselves, the peace that we have within and that peace that we are. That strength that we all are. Feeling that connection that we have with every being on this planet, that oneness that we all share, that we all are. And to just hold those things in this moment and just send those things out to the people that need them at this moment. We may not know each face, but we do know that those people are us and we are them. I invite you to continue to hold this space as we just enter into a moment of silence. And as we begin to bring our awareness back to this room, we affirm that everyone today has all of the strength that they need, all of the strength that they are. We affirm peace regardless of outer circumstances, knowing that that peace is found within, as that peace too is a part of who and what we are. We just hold each being in love today. And we just breathe in this present moment, and we just allow it to be. And so it is. Namaste. Pete. All right, so change. I haven't had enough of that lately. It's kind of like we went to the earth and tried to make this pact, and we said, you know, earth, I don't think I've had enough changes lately. I don't think you can give me any changes. And the earth goes, hold my drink. Let me show you what I got. Anybody else feel that way? So I know Pete, last week, he talked a little bit about liberation and change. And, I don't want to rehash what he talked about. But today I do want to address some of life's changes and some of those transitional moments in our lives. And we've had a lot of practice with that lately. I think we really have. Because as things have changed on the planet, we've got changes with the weather. We've had this pandemic. I mean, everything that's going on. And then on top of that, we've also had these personal changes in our lives too, right? Probably everybody in here has had personal changes of some kind. Those don't stop just because changes are going on around the world on a grander scale. But I also thought it would be the perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about change because we have the installation of our new spiritual care team today. And of course, this is an example of one of those transitional moments even here at the church. They happen everywhere. Change happens everywhere, even in our spiritual communities. And we've got some new faces on the team, and some have moved on for one reason or the other, but some of you have grown, probably used to having a specific prayer chaplain to pray with you, and suddenly there's going to be somebody new calling. And even those can just create these moments where we're a little uncertain at first and wonder, what the heck is going on here? Could I possibly get any more change? And of course, this is only one example of some of the transitions that we experience in life, of course. Now, there are lots of them that take place throughout the course of our lives during this lifetime, because if you are sitting here and you are breathing, there is going to be change. That is the one constant we can count on. There is going to be change. Some of those changes we want to happen, don't we? The birth of children or grandchildren, those raises that we've gotten at work, those wonderful volunteer opportunities that have come our way, the perfect job, the perfect spouse or partner, retirement. Those are probably those changes that we look forward to, that we enjoy. These changes are seen as a cause of celebration usually when they happen. We pop open the champagne or the fizzy cider and we just celebrate when these things happen. It's just a party, right? But then there are those other kinds of changes and transitions that happen in life. Those that we weren't prepared for, those that happen and we're like, oh, I'm not really liking that very much. That change can stop now. Those that make us want to run and hide away somewhere rather than break out the party favors. For me, I remember a big change that happened when I was in the military. At one point I worked with these two supervisors that I really loved, and they just made work so much fun every day. We had fun together. They added a little bit of flexibility into what was otherwise often a really rigid thing, being in the military, and they just made it fun. And I gotten used to them, developed a good rapport with them, and one day I walked in and those supervisors were gone and there were two new ones there. For some reason, the colonel did not think to come and ask my permission, and I don't know why. Me, this lonely, senior airman in the Air Force, didn't come to me, and I don't know why she didn't. But anyway. But the military, they're not always so forthcoming with the decisions they're making or why. But I was really upset, and I remember feeling really sad at that moment. I knew these two people, but I didn't know them really well. I was thinking, would my work environment suddenly just drastically change? Would it be for the better or not? Those were thoughts going through my mind. And so time moves on after a while, and I realized that these two new supervisors created an environment that actually exceeded the last one. They were wonderful. They were both amazing, and I realized as time went on that I was honored to serve under their membership and under their supervision. And they also began to create a lot of positive change that really needed to happen in that area where I was working. The military powers at the time, they knew the military powers to be, the colonel, she knew at the time that change needed to happen, so that's why she chose to make it. But from that moment forward, I realized that change isn't always welcome, especially the kind of change that seemingly comes out of nowhere and just kind of bops us over the head suddenly. That change that we don't see coming. But sometimes it's that very change that turns out to offer us a world and opportunities that are far beyond what we possibly imagined. And for me, the change in supervisors really offered me an opportunity for growth. Because before that, I had always resisted change in my life. Now, I grew up in the same house with the same friends all through my school years. My parents had grown up in the neighboring town, and life was always just pretty even keel for most of my childhood, all the way up to high school graduation. And nothing in my life had really ever drastically changed as I grew up. Change was something that seldom really ever even crossed my path. At least any kind of a major change. Of course, I would start new school years and things like that, but it was always with the same kids. It was always the same faces for the most part every year. But not really having much drastic change, I never really had to put my life out there, put myself out there. And I never really had to walk into moments of change that made me uncomfortable. Even in the military, I experienced a change in my life to get to the point where I was in the military, but that was a welcome change because I wanted that change. I wanted to experience new things and to leave my hometown. But again, that was welcome. But to have something like that happened to me in the military, that sudden change of supervisors, that was new to me all of a sudden. That one really threw me. But you know what? I'm talking about that here today, which means I never forgot it. Now when change that seems unwelcome in my life, I use that memory as my anchor. And I use that as a reminder that sometimes change happens to offer us new growth and new learning opportunities. And that's what I cling to. I cling now to the fact that change is going to happen. It is as sure as a change in the weather. It is going to happen. It's inevitable. The only certainty is that life is going to change, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be for my good. And there isn't going to be an opportunity that's hidden for me within that change. Whether that change is welcomed by me at the time or not. And another thing I feel that's worth mentioning when it comes to change is our principles here at Unity. Most specifically, our Unity 5 principles. The third principle says, and this is from Reverend Ellen Davenport's book, The 5 Principles. She says the third principle is, human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. And then she moves on into a chapter titled Co-Creating with God. And this made me think for a moment, just what if this change that I'm experiencing, whether I like it or not, is a part of my co-creation with God, with the universe, whatever name you use for God. Because if this change, any change that's happening in my life is presenting itself to me, maybe it's something that my higher self is manifesting into my life for me. What if this change is merely another fork in the road? The road that is leading me to something I want or even need in my life. Now, most of the time, not always, but most of the things that we want, most of those things that manifest in our lives, they don't suddenly always just appear within an instant, do they? You know, oftentimes a series of events in our lives leads up to that place of manifestation. You know, say you want to find the perfect partner. You know, more often than not, he, she, or they aren't just going to suddenly just ring your doorbell one day. That would be nice if that had happened, but that's not the way it happened. Mine was close since I met Mindy at a Unity church, so it was close. I know some others met at Unity too, but it's often a series of events that happens that brings you and that person together. You know, someone invites you to an event where you meet each other. You know, you crash your carts into the grocery store because you're like, oh no, I have to go back to the grocery store. I forgot the milk. And you're just there. You were supposed to be there. Series of events led into it. You crash your grocery carts into each other, and there you are. Maybe I watch too much TV, but yeah. But regardless, whatever it is, it's often a series of events that leads up to these things happening in our lives, right? Maybe the change that's happening in your life is setting into motion or already a part of those moving pieces. Those moving pieces that is the part of you that is co-creating with God. That part of you that is creating your experience. So change. I invite you to breathe when it comes to change. To just breathe into it and just to allow it to be, because it's going to happen. And as we know, change is sometimes welcome. Sometimes, not so much. Maybe this change, however, is trying to show you a better way. Maybe just a different way. Even when it feels like anything but. You know, maybe it's presenting itself so I finally learned the art or the magic of release. You know, how great is that? To just experience that feeling of release. It's like this weight, like this elephant is off of your shoulders. You know, maybe it's presenting itself so I finally learned to trust God or my higher self or the universe. So that I will listen and to allow my higher self to guide me upon the journey of life. And to go back to our foundation, which is faith. Because without faith, we don't have that foundation on which to build on. You know, it may not always feel welcome. But remember the words that Jesus once spoke. And he mentioned it in Matthew 11:28 of the Bible. He said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And remember our second spiritual reading for the day that Mindy read earlier. She who knows life flows, feels no wear or tear, needs no mending or repair. So maybe it's time we learn to trust. Time we learn to flow. To look for the hidden diamond that's within. To look for those opportunities that life is presenting us and just waiting for us to find. Namaste. Now, if you read the e-blast, and if you don't get the e-blast, I promised that I would talk a little shorter today because we have our spiritual care team installation, and I'm not going to be in trouble for stomachs, for going way over and then there being hungry stomachs. So that's why my talk is cut a little short today, but we're going to now sing Here I Am, Lord, and we're going to shortly begin our ceremony.